Yeah. With I don't know how she does it, had tons and tons of mail, thousands and thousands of letters. And my absolute favourite story came from a woman in Boston called Liz, and she said, I had to share this with you. She said that her 9-year-old daughter had said to her recently, you're the only mom who doesn't take her kid to brownies. And any of you who are parents here will know that the opening gambit of your 9-year-old daughter is always, you're the only person who doesn't, okay? So, but still, she felt even worse than normal about not being present for her. So come the day of the next brownie meeting, she went into work, got through her work, double quick time, ran out of the office shouting an excuse about taking the car to the garage or something, drove across town like Sandra Bullock in Speed, foot on the floor, screeched into the Brownie Hall car park, went into the Brownie Hall, sat down, and she said, I felt that rare moment of thinking, I'm in the right place at the right time, which of course the working mum rarely feels she's in the right place at the right time. And she said she was feeling very, very proud of herself, and she caught the brown owl looking at her very weirdly. And she said, the brown owl finally said, it's so lovely to have you here with us today, Mrs. Walker. I said, maybe next time you could bring your daughter as well. Allison, I forgot the kid. So that's the story. That's it. I forgot the kid. Everything right except the only thing that matters. Yeah. Perfect. So I think that in the movie, Aileen, who's Johanna said, was adapting the movie, and I think they've got one lovely sequence, because all movies have those dream sequences of makeovers where the character gets transformed from, sort of slightly kind of scrotty looking to marvelous, but they've got a kind of reverse makeover. So Sarah Jessica Parker's trying to get dressed for work with the kids running around, so everything she tries on is kind of like covered in some, baby porridge or spit up or something, she's got the wrong colour tights or everything. And I thought that's brilliant, because that's what life is, just that your clothes are a long way down your priority list when you've got small children, aren't they?
That's right, the opposite montage, the de-glamming montage.
De-glamming, which I loved as a montage.
Well, it is true that you always feel like you're failing somebody, and I think that was what the nerve that was hit so brilliantly by, I don't know how she does it, is that there's this sense of, no matter what you're doing, no matter how fantastic it is, there's always somebody who's going to say, but you didn't do this part or that part or whatever. And so, I mean, in a way, it's kind of great to be able now to take your daughter to the set of this movie, right? Because I imagine
this is going to be, how cool is Mummy going to be? Just for once, I'm going to be, even she can't say whatever when I'm like, Evie, Pierce Brosnan, Evie, Sarah Jessica Parker, Evie, Kelsey Grammer, Evie, Christina Hendricks. Finally, for one day, I am queen of the world.
This all happened, because Mummy typed this.
Because Mummy typed this.
All those days when you said, Mummy, can't you help me with this or that, have now led you here to New York City. One of the great things about your books and columns is that they read like you're writing emails to your friends or something, and they have this kind of effortlessness, which of course, obviously, is all craft. But I mean, how much of it are you laboring over paragraphs? How much of it sort of comes out the way you think?
No, I'm a snail. I'm I just do kind of little blocks of, terrible. I'm a real illuminated manuscript writer. I'd have been a perfect medieval monk, really, because I can do about 7 words a day, and I'm supposed to be a journalist, but I'm such a bad journalist, because they ring up about 10 o'clock in the morning and they say, can we have, 1,400 words by, and you think, oh no, can't I have 3 weeks?
Yeah.
I've already been writing because I'm kind of worried that Margaret Thatcher's going to die soon, the Queen's going to die soon, so I've got all these files of pre-prepared stuff, because I know they're going to ring up and say, we need something by 5 o'clock. Yeah. So it's just, I'm slow.
Yeah. And this book was sort of infamously late, was it not? Was there not a time when they were sort of knocking on your Miramax, or the publisher was knocking on your door?
The publisher, not so much. There was a film company, but it was a complete debacle. My mother was very ill. In fact, it was quite a kind of classic Kate Reddy moment, really, because my mother had 2 heart attacks back to back, and it was one of those, just everything's. Troubles come not in single spies, but in battalions, and the mass battalions were on my back lawn. But I got it done. Got it done in the end. And,
And it is true that you mentioned, and I don't know how she does it, that if a sort of person who's juggling all that, if he's a man, he's a hero, and a woman who's juggling all that, she's sort of a failure.
Lacking in commitment.
Lacking commitment to any one of those things. Do you think it's always going to come down to, that sort of how a man does things versus how a woman does things for women who work? Is there a future in sight where we don't have to do that anymore?
I think we can often forget. I was saying to a friend the other day, we are a tiny window in all history. I mean, maybe there's an impatience. We think, look, my grandmother, my Welsh grandmother, didn't get the vote till 1928. She left school when she was 13. She went into domestic service. My grandfather left school and went down the mine when he was 13. That's within my memory. Mm-hmm. If I said to my grandmother what I was doing now, flying around the world would she, be impossible. So I do think there's been a huge change. It's hard for us to see. I think people will look back. I mean, this is certainly, the last 50 years have been the year of women, haven't they? Mm-hmm. In an extraordinary way. But I think the problem is that women have been allowed to do our father's jobs, but by and large, we've retained our mother's responsibilities. Mm-hmm. And that's the central conundrum. So although, my husband is fantastic. I'm sure, lots of men are great, but I always joke that he thinks the toilet paper is restocked by the toilet paper fairy. She does a lot of work, that toilet paper.
Yes, I know. My husband is here tonight too, and we joke about National Dry Cleaning Day. When is National Dry Cleaning Day, honey? Because that day we will go to the dry cleaner together. There's a great image in, I don't know how she does it, where you talk about how cathedrals were built by people who had faith that they wouldn't walk in them, but their children or their great-grandchildren would, and that, for women in this generation have to have that same faith, and that future generations, you say, will walk on our bones, which I think is really lovely.
Well, also, but they may, I think, my daughter, from when she could speak, my daughter would always have fantastically pungent opinions about her childcare, whatever was going on at the time. I remember she was tiny and she'd sit in the back of the car and, she'd say, when I grow up, when I be big, she said, I'm going to have 6 children. She said, and I'm going to look after them all by my own.
So there, mummy.
So there would be this kind of thing. And now I think, well, maybe she'll look at me and think, you must be crazy. Why would I want to be like her? And maybe she'll, but we can't predict, can we?
It's a very fluky time in the culture. I know one of your influences I read were the sort of great screwball comedies of the 30s and 40s. The women were so strong in those. Yeah, and we don't get those kind of screen women right now, do we? What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, I do think I just think it's so perverse, because how can it be that in the late 1920s and through the... Oops. You still hear me? Yes.
Yes.
That the movies threw up people like, Katharine Hepburn, Barbara Stanwyck, Rosalind Russell, these astounding women. If you ever watch on screen Henry Fonda and Barbara Stanwyck, there's no doubt which one is in control. I mean, he's lovely, but he's just hanging in there, isn't he, really, while she's running rings around him. And when you look at the so-called romantic comedy now, I mean, oh, God, it's so lame in comparison, isn't it? It's, I don't know. I don't know why. Why as women have become more equal, has their depiction on screen been diminished? Go figure, as they say.
How do you negotiate living with a writer? My husband and I joke that we play Can You Top My Pain? And that's who gets the sort of final, you're like, oh, I have a deadline, I have a deadline.
Yeah, we sometimes have the I have a deadline. And because my husband writes for an American magazine, he writes for the New Yorker, so we have this marvelous thing where there's no moment in 24 hours when someone isn't shouting down the phone about a deadline. Because just about the time that the kids need bed and, everything, homework, is when he starts talking to New York. So he manages to mysteriously disappear around those crucial get into your pajamas times.
Those hours.
I don't know, would I recommend? Living with a writer, yeah, it's great, because in some ways, of course, he understands like nobody else. And then the bad thing is he understands like no one else. But I don't think anyone else would put up with me, so it's too late now, really. But
he at least has the comfort of writing about movies that other people have made. What's he going to do when your movie comes out? Is he recusing himself?
His advice to me when I sold I Don't Know How She Does It, because I was wondering whether to try and write something, or he said the only sane approach to these people is collect, check, and move swiftly in opposite direction. And I think that's